Hi, I'm Arnav. I'm a computer science major in the class of 2020, and I'm here today to talk about how social media platforms keep users engaged. So I want to start by addressing a basic question that you might already have, which is, why should I care? The basic answer that I would offer to this question is that lots of people are already using social media every day, and so I think that everyone should at least try to understand how it affects people and what makes it so popular. And for a more nuanced answer, I think that there are different reasons depending on who you are. So if you're a company, obviously you care about this because you want to sell ads. But if you're a user, I think that understanding how these companies will try to sell you these ads can help you make informed choices about how you use their platform. And if you're an engineer or a designer, there might be some lessons from examining these methods that you can apply to your own domain of expertise. So I want to start by defining what I mean by user engagement. I'm using the term here in a technical sense, and what it means is a measurement of how much users are interacting with your platform. So there are different ways you can do this, and the best way to do it is going to depend on what exactly your application is. So now I'm going to start addressing the main topic, which is how social media platforms keep users engaged. And I'm going to split their strategies into two main categories: design patterns and content recommendation algorithms. Design patterns are what the user sees, when they see it, and how they interact with the platform. And in a word, you can basically think of this as the structure of the platform. Content recommendation algorithms are how you decide what content to show the user. So this content could be in the form of text, videos, photo, music, etc. And it's going to be served to the user within the structure provided by the design patterns that you use. So now I'm going to go into some examples of design patterns that are engineered to increase user engagement. And basically what we're looking for here is ways to encourage users to keep going. So a very simple example of this is stories and streaks, because these are features that have a 24-hour time frame on them. So if you want to use them, you have to log on within that 24-hour window, and you're basically encouraged to log on just for those, to keep up with those, if nothing else. Next, we have gamification, which is, it sounds complicated, but really it's just giving users a sense of progress or making users feel rewarded for using your application. So one way you might do this is notify them about new followers that they get, or show off how many followers they have to other people. Or for example, if you're Spotify, you might tell people how many minutes they spent listening to music that year and make them feel rewarded for using your platform. And the last example of this that I want to consider is sort of a paradigm example of a design pattern that increases engagement, which is infinite scrolling. So we've all probably been in the situation where we're scrolling down Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and we're doing this for way longer than we probably should be, because it's easier to just keep scrolling than it is to get up and do something else. This is 100% by design. And I think it's kind of instructive to think about how the incentives of different platforms impact whether they use infinite scrolling. So for Google, when you look up search results, why is it that you don't get an infinitely scrolling list of results? Because they totally have the content to do it, right? The reason is because for Google, there's no incentive to keep users scrolling on a page of search results. If a user is constantly scrolling on search results, it probably means that something bad is going on. They either haven't found what they're looking for, or they found it but they missed it, or they found it and they saw it but they decided to keep on going, and now they might end up feeling confused and lost. So for Google, it makes a lot more sense to give users a single page of accurate results, and once they reach the end of that page, users are then encouraged to evaluate whether they've found what they're looking for already, or they need to maybe refine their search or look elsewhere. And Google is perfectly happy with people finding what they're looking for immediately and clicking it, because it keeps people happy with Google. On the other hand, for Facebook, you wouldn't want someone logging onto Facebook, seeing a single post, and deciding that's enough for me. So infinite scrolling is a design pattern that you're going to want to implement depending on how much incentive you have to increase user engagement in certain metrics. So now I want to focus on some ways that engagement increasing design patterns can be applied outside of social media. And one example of this that I came up with is gamification on Kahoot. So if you've ever been on Kahoot and you've seen this screen, this is an example of gamification. They're displaying metrics to pretty much everyone in the room so that people have an incentive to get their name up on the screen. And we have like Khan Academy streaks, which are pretty much the same thing as streaks on any social media platform. They work the exact same way. You're encouraged to log on within a 24-hour window. Some educational platforms will use encapsulated learning modules, which basically provide a concrete reward structure for the user so that they're encouraged to come back because they feel like they're making steady progress on learning a topic. And the last example of this that I want to consider is Wikipedia's homepage and hover previews, because these are examples of ways that Wikipedia tries to pique your interest in an article before getting you to commit to clicking it and reading it. And Wikipedia is a little different than some of the other examples I mentioned here because they don't show ads, so they don't have as much of an incentive to increase user engagement. But these are some simple ways that they can increase engagement without compromising the integrity of the platform. So moving on, now I want to talk about how content recommendation algorithms increase user engagement. And first I want to talk about what exactly they are. So there's two main types of models that you'll generally see used to recommend content to users. And these are content-based and interaction-based models. Content-based models are exactly what they sound like. They just try to find similar content to the content that you're currently looking at. And interaction-based models try to find content that you're likely to interact with, which isn't always similar to what you're looking at. So you can imagine a model that recommends a bunch of sensational clickbait articles that are totally unrelated to what you're looking at, but you're likely to click on them and interact with them. So the model learns to recommend them to you. There are some trade-offs that you're going to have to consider whenever you want to choose between which of these models you want to use. So for example, for interaction-based models, you need some time to learn user preferences if you want to deliver them personalized recommendations, which you probably do because those are the ones that they're going to be most likely to click on. So content-based models offer a way to spend no time learning preferences and offer decent recommendations straight away. And in reality, you'll usually see a mix of these two models being used. So lastly, I want to consider ways that you could apply recommendation algorithms to a platform outside of social media platforms. And so I'm going to consider Wikipedia. And we'll start with content-based recommendation algorithms just to get a feel for how the different algorithms apply outside of social media. So if you wanted to build a content-based recommendation algorithm for Wikipedia, your first instinct would probably be to analyze the similarity of the text of different articles. But incidentally, Wikipedia has a human-built definition of similarity, which is probably more useful than any model you can build, which is network structure. So you can basically just look at what Wikipedia pages link to the other ones and use that to determine what's similar rather than the text. And then if you wanted to build an interaction-based model for Wikipedia, you would basically just have to collect some metrics that would reflect engagement with articles. So you could collect time spent on an article or the number of links clicked and stuff like that. And you would basically just optimize for that in the recommendations you show. So just to recap on what I talked about here, social media platforms use design patterns and content recommendation algorithms to increase user engagement. The two main reasons that I think you should understand how this is done is that It can inform your decision as a user on how you use the platform. And if you're an engineer or designer, you might be able to apply some of these methods to other areas. Design patterns are just the structure of the platform. They encompass pretty much the entire user experience, and content recommendation algorithms determine what the user sees within that structure. So yeah, I think that this is an important topic to understand given how much social media has impacted modern society. And thank you for listening.